I'm Laurie Popp with Spark and Logic. I've been a licensed agent since 1998, and my approach to business has always been let's work smarter, not harder. So I'm always searching out new ways for agents to grow their businesses in a way that makes sense. Over my years in real estate, I've had agents ask me about virtual assistants. A VA may make sense when your business gets to the point that you need some help. Joining me today is Brittany Kramme, owner and founder of Right Hand of a Real Estate Agent. Brittany is a licensed real estate agent who saw a need to lighten the workload of real estate agents by offering training to women on how to operate a successful virtual assistant transaction coordinator business. So welcome, Brittany. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
me.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. Well, let's sort of dive in. What motivated you to start Right Hand of a Real Estate Agent?
So, what motivated me to start Right Hand of a Real Estate Agent is my real estate career started as a licensed assistant. We then turned into a team, and it came to a point where my husband and I started growing our family, and I realized that I was taking my son to daycare all day, and then I was doing showings in the evening, sometimes with him like in his carrier attached to my hip, which bless my clients' hearts, they never minded. In fact, they enjoyed his cuteness, but I didn't enjoy working nights and evenings and weekends like I did and being attached to my phone. I remember answering questions in between feeding him pureed food as he was little. So for me, it was how can I take my knowledge and experience and apply it in a different way? That is when I started my own virtual assistant and transaction coordinator business, being like, I can do the behind the scenes things and not have to be the face in the front of the business, doing the showings and negotiating the deals. I could just be the support role. And as I started growing that business and it started really taking off, there were a lot of women who were, how do I serve real estate agents? How do I do what you're doing? What do they need? And they didn't have the background and the knowledge and experience that I had. And so I thought, this is a really cool opportunity because I've been an agent for many years, full time selling real estate. And now I know the assistant side virtually. And so I can really give a unique perspective to these women who want to specialize in serving and supporting real estate agents as a virtual assistant or transaction coordinator.
That's fantastic. I think having that type of a background that you had, it was so relevant. You knew exactly what was going to be needed and how you could fit in and fill that service need. So you have quite an extensive VA training program. Can you tell me a little bit about that and how it impacts an agent? What would be the benefit to an agent?
Absolutely. So I have a couple different options in my program. I have as easy as a free Facebook group called Right Hand of a Real Estate Agent, where I have over 2,300 women in that community. But then I've also done paid trainings where I have a digital course and I've done a TC workshop and ways to educate these women. I've done one-on-one coaching. And over time, I've created all of these things, digital resources, templates, swipe copy, graphics, all of that I've compiled now into what I call the Key Club membership. So it is a membership for women who are interested in learning how to become or start a VATC business. And it benefits agents because they work with me directly. They have full access to me and the pre-recorded training aspects of it. They also have all of my resources. I'm adding new graphics, new templates, new things to it every single month. And the benefits to an agent would be that the women that I work with, if they were to hire them or take leverage or use my support request form, they are getting someone who already knows what that agent needs. They are already familiar with the lingo. They specifically want to serve real estate agents. They're not a general VA who helps wedding planners or online coaches or other things. Like their main goal is to serve real estate agents. And not only can they do that successfully because now they have the knowledge and the tools to do so, but they can implement those things into an agent's business immediately. So for the resources that I've provided them for their future clients, they can implement those things and get them up and running immediately. Such as if they were doing listing coordination services, I have an intake form, an onboarding form. I have a weekly listing update template, which you will all get a copy of that you can either use in your own business on your own or have a listing coordinator help you with. But the point is for agents, these women can jump right in and start offering you immediate support. And the learning curve and the training aspect that you would have to provide is very little.
So it sounds like it's quite extensive. So there's so many activities that go into managing a listing, getting that transaction from list to close, and maybe even beyond, because you want to keep in contact with that past client. So it sounds like this is very comprehensive. These, and you mentioned 2,300 women in your group right now. That just blew my mind that there's that many people.
Yeah.
And I'm imagining some of these women might be bilingual.
Mhm.
So you have an opportunity, if you're in a marketplace where Spanish or another language is, commonly spoken, to be able to then get a VA that can understand that language. Because you know how many times I've tried using Google Translate. Doesn't always translate correctly with what I was doing.
That's true.
To have somebody who actually knows the
Yeah.
language working with you, what a huge bonus that would be. Now, I
I mean,
do
they're
like,
bilingual, they're nationwide. I have some in Canada. I mean, there's some that are global. So I would say the vast majority are United States based, but they are everywhere. So they know all of those local markets and they could be very near and dear to many different agents.
right, that's amazing. I love that. And we talked about that we're going to have a handout for everybody,
Yeah,
the weekly update template. We're
absolutely.
going to have that up on the screen here. Tell me a little bit more about how the virtual assistant could work with the agent on this particular handout.
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest complaints that we hear about the real estate industry in general is poor communication. If you were to ask buyers and sellers for any general feedback of how an agent could have improved their services, it's always, I could have done with more communication, knowing what was going on behind the scenes. I know my agent was working on my behalf, but I didn't always know what they were doing. Or there's just so much paperwork and listing activities that go initially up front, but once the property is listed and it's a new listing and then it sits for a couple of weeks, then it's just a waiting game and I'm not hearing anything from my agent, not because they don't want to talk to me, but because they don't actually have any real updates. So something that this listing coordinator or your virtual assistant could do for you is this is a weekly listing update that they could gather the data and the information for you, and whether you would then want to present it to your sellers, or they could even, you wouldn't have to lift a finger. They could even send it on your behalf and CC you on this weekly listing update. But essentially the information tells the seller, how many calls have we received this week? How many people have favorited it? How many showings have happened? What feedback have those buyers or agents, what kind of feedback have they given? And then you can give them some of the online resources. So how many people have viewed it on realtor.com? How many people have viewed it on Zillow? How many people? So it's kind of this overall summary of what kind of attraction or action is your listing getting, along with kind of a very mini market analysis in regards to the competition in that specific area. It could be by zip code or by subdivision, however you'd like to do it, but how many properties are currently in the market within that area? How many are currently pending? How many sold within the last week? How many have reduced their price in the last week? And again, this is me just kind of pulling off the top of my head, but in just one page, these sellers can get a very good feel of what has happened in regards to their listing and the listings around them in the last 7 days. And your virtual assistant can help you collect that data and present it very pretty. It's all in Canva and looks very nice and branded to you as an agent in your business with your headshot and your information. And they can present that seller with that information every single week on your behalf. So even if there's not a lot happening with it, or maybe there's getting a lot of action and you're getting a lot of action, but no offers, well, why? That feedback is on there. And so then your sellers, it just helps that barrier of there's no communication. Well, every single week they can anticipate they're going to get a weekly summary from you and your team.
Right. Oh, and so many times we see the statistics support that. The number one reason, what's the worst thing that you don't like about working with an agent? I never hear from them. Listed my property and then that was it.
To your agent's behalf, it's not that you're not purposely trying to communicate with them. It's just you wear so many hats in your business. You are juggling a lot of things at one time. And so if there is no news, sometimes no news is good news, or no news could be bad news, but it's not that you're purposely trying to shut them out. It's just you're doing so many different things that you don't have the opportunity to just call a client and say, I have nothing to share with you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the worst phone call. You never want to make that one. So then we don't, right? So I think one of the questions that I would get a lot, agents will assume that a VA might be financially out of their reach. But I thought, let's sort of dispel the myth. How are VAs compensated?
So a virtual assistant can be compensated in a lot of different ways. I would also say it depends on their role. If they are specifically a listing coordinator, they are going to be paid per transaction, or it's going to be in approximately 4-week chunks. I would say that's average, where an agent or a VA will provide listing coordinator services per contract for 4 weeks, where they will send those weekly summaries, and they help with a lot of the upfront stuff too. If they're a listing coordinator, they help with creating your partial, writing remarks, gathering all of your documentation, possibly drafting them for you and getting them all ready to go. They help with your marketing materials, feature sheet boxes, social media posts. So like they do a lot of the listing coordination up front, and they will do that for like 4 weeks. If the property goes under contract in those first 4 weeks, then they are done. You pay them for that portion of time. A lot of agents will then either choose to renew them for another 4 weeks to continue sending those weekly updates and things like that. But per transaction, per file, if you will. Same with a transaction coordinator. A transaction coordinator, some offer both listing coordination and contract to close. Other prefer just to do contract to close. So once a property buyer or seller goes under contract, accepted offer, that's when they step in and they start corresponding with all of the parties and handling the communication and the documentation and things like that. When it comes to just a general VA who's helping you with day-to-day general administrative tasks, helping you with maybe your social media management or anything else that you might need internal support with, well, it depends if they're just doing 1 or 2 tasks for you. If they're doing 20 tasks for you, of course, that's going to affect the price. So those are based on more of either a proposal situation where you have a call with them. You tell them everything you need assistance with, and then they will let you know, this is what I would charge for those services. Others have packages, which makes it very easy for the agent, right? Where it's just like, hey, here's a bronze or a silver, gold, and platinum package, and you can choose your services and then an a la carte situation as well. So there's really a lot of different ways, but in general, a virtual assistant is going to cost you less than having to hire a W-2 employee that you have to pay every single month, whether you're closing houses or not. So a virtual assistant, a lot of them are independent contractors. You can hire them just for 3 months during the spring market, or 6 months, or a whole year, month to month. There's a lot of flexibility there. And a lot of times they're very reasonable in regards to monthly or weekly price.
And I think that's the important thing, like you said, that you put together what kind of tasks you want to have done. And the thing is, the VA may even have some additional ideas, I bet, from based on their experience of some other suggestions they may make that you hadn't even thought of. But then find out exactly what would be the proposal for this. So don't assume. It's sort of like, I always look at it when a buyer goes in, they get an inspection done, and the inspector says, oh, the house is going to need a new roof. And the buyer immediately sees tens of thousands of dollars, when in reality, it might not have been that much at all. So we always assume the worst. And I think it's here too. It's just a simple get together, start this process and find out to see if it's something that will fit into your business or not. Don't be afraid of it, I guess, is my big takeaway. Is this could be a huge bonus for agents, because I always see we make our money where we're listing the property, doing a listing presentation, we're showing houses, we're negotiating an offer. Those are our top dollar producing activities, not putting out a social media post or gathering the data for the weekly update, let's say. Those are admin type tasks. And that actually makes better financial sense to offload that to allow you more time to do the higher dollar producing activities. So I think this is definitely a win-win. I'm so excited to have you share all this information, and we're going to share with everybody that weekly update template for them to take a look at, use it as they see fit, but know that this is just one of many things that a virtual assistant can be doing for them.
What I love is that a virtual assistant role, it's everything you need support with and nothing you don't. It can be very customizable to that agent and their specific needs, right? So if you only are like, you know what, I want to show up on social media and show my face on occasion, but I would like a social media manager to put out more stagnant posts or valuable posts on my behalf on a more consistent basis. If that's the only task you need, that could cost you less than $1,000 a month, less. And you're showing up consistently and possibly nurturing your audience and keeping that top of mind awareness, whether they've already worked with you or they might potentially work with you. And again, that's just one of many examples of how a VA could assist you.
Excellent. Oh, this definitely seems like it's working smarter, not harder. I love that. I love
for
that
sure.
approach. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for joining me. We have your contact information should agents want to follow up and get in contact with you and start the ball rolling. So I, again, appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great week.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Brittany.